Especially since I don't know anything. Oh my god. All right, get over yourself. Probably. I would. I just don't understand the outrage on like, because this isn't like changing the entire game's course. This is more filling in backstory. If you were to release, like, let's say they wanted to be like, hey, we're gonna release Persona 4 and we're gonna release it across, multiple games, but we're gonna deep dive into, like, way more. And I'll be like, I'll buy it. Sign me up. I'm like, I'm already like, where's the pre-order button for me to, jump on this? Because as long as you're not fundamentally changing this, like the whole overarching story, it's still going to be the story of Cloud versus the big bad with everyone. Well, right? Or some.
Speaking of, that's what the original game felt like when suddenly your Hocho's like.
Who are you?
This goofy scientist?
Like, every time I play that game, there's always this moment where, like, a couple of the Shinra people get introduced, and I'm always like, who are you people again? Like, what? Like, Rufus is the one that always gets me, because everyone acts like he's, like, so important, and I'm like, I was tracking a lot of the other stuff going on, but you just threw this guy at me. Why is he important?
I mean, there's so much lore and offhand comments on freaking Midgar. I just don't like. I think that'll be really easy to fill out, and like so many of the issues they are approaching in Final Fantasy VII that they kind of meander on and ditch off and don't do well. Like the whole game is about just effectively like a metaphor for climate change, right? Like, and it's oh crap, we're using the lifeblood of this planet, and now we have a literal terrorist group in Avalanche saying, okay, we're going to go blow up basically like electric plants in an effort to save the. So like I feel like there's a lot that they can unpack there. I feel like the without like the big spoiler of well, gosh, I can't even talk around it. But let's just say there's a sector that I think would be really good to get to know, to flesh out, so that they can gut punch you on it later.
Right. Sorry if anyone was missing my audio. I think I just fixed it.
Well, I think there's a lot to tell in Midgar that they could actually go into, and for the people who should be fans of the series should be excited for that sort of thing rather than
putting out hashtags.
Hashtag this isn't the Final Fantasy.
Right.
You know what? Your Final Fantasy still exists on many platforms.
You can play it on nearly everything.
You can play it on your phone. You can play it like on
the Switch.
You could, like, it's across everything. It still exists, and if you want it, you can play it. So I don't understand the complaint on this newer version, which is probably going to introduce a lot of people who have always looked at, like, Final Fantasy VII. You know, younger generation people are just like, I don't like the appeal of these pixely blocky thing. Like, I'm not getting invested in that. Yep. I can understand that.
Yeah, totally.
I can look at it in my nostalgia fills in the blanks, and I still enjoy it. But I could see, like, a younger generation being like, oh, God, that's an old
like, this
game.
Dude looks like Popeye. This is crazy. Well, I'm like, and you listen to the music, like, we really love the music, but if you listen to it as someone who's used to modern video game scores, it's kind of like, cool, this sounds like crap. It's like, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. And then you listen to the soundtrack for the new game, and you're like, this sounds really good.
Yeah. I'm just saying, because I've played Final Fantasy 14 online, I've played with people whose the latest Final Fantasy they ever played is 13. Like, they didn't play anything before that. 13 was their introductory, and they just talk about how 13 is so good, or how 15 is so good, and they just gush about it all the time, how these are, like, you know, pinnacles of, like, you know, gaming. And I just think to myself, like, okay, those are the two that I really do not.
They're fine, but
sure. And they're just like, but if you look how amazing they look, and I'm just like, sure,
you're not wrong.
Like,
honestly,
I get it.
I still really like 15, and I don't know what that game is anymore. So, offhand thing, I was talking to a dude at work who played through 15 once, and I'm like, so this is a spoiler for 15 I'm about to say. I don't think it's a big spoiler, and considering my friend's response, hopefully not everyone will get mad at me. So, at the end of the game, everyone of my party and myself dies to complete and vanquish the foe at the end. And I said, so what did you think about the downer ending? He said, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, everyone dies. He's like, no, they didn't. I'm like, what?
Wait a minute.
What do you mean no one? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all your party members sacrificed themselves for that one thing at the end, and then they, you know, just imply that, you know, Noctis is dead. And he's like, yeah, none of that happened on mine. I'm like, what? What have they changed in this game?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I don't
Buy
know.
the DLC to find out.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. But I'm just saying, a lot of people have not had the opportunity to play the older ones, and giving them this opportunity, it seems worth it. And
I think what we're really saying is shut up, nerds.
I mean, in not so many words, but please just get a little over it, and just realize that you could still play your version.
Everything is not made for everyone, and that's okay.
And I mean, it's going to be a completely different game. I mean, no matter how you frame it, and Cloud and Sephiroth have proven to be very iconic characters over the years. So I see no reason why they shouldn't try and tell, well, quite frankly, a better story with them.
Yeah, it'd be it'd be like remaking Final Fantasy 13 and Lightning isn't in it. Like, that would be an impossibility. I mean, those are your iconic Final Fantasy characters of modern day. So, yeah, I don't know.
Could they get on to making Final Fantasy 6, like, for the first time ever, remake it, like, actually?
With everything they've done to 5, I sort of don't want them to look at 6 anymore.
Well, I don't mean like remake it in, like, the way that they've done with the other ones. I think 6 deserves a really nice, like an actual full, like, don't bring it back like the other ones. I'm talking like a full. I think it deserves it.
I think so. I think the only thing that would maybe prevent them from doing so would be the size of both overworlds. It seems like a very big development hurdle, and I think that's going to be one of the challenges of Final Fantasy VII. I can almost see that's why 7 Remake is probably going to end at Midgar, because it's like, all right, as soon as you finish that, shit, we have to figure out what to do with the world map. So, like, I don't know.
The other thing I feel bad about the Final Fantasy VII, like, sequel part, Like, the sequel is what I think people should be really worried about, because your new character in that sequel is going to be Kate Sith.
Right. Well, like, as soon as you get out of Midgar,
Eddie Yuffie, like,
you hit
surprise,
calm.
your materia's gone.
Yeah. I think you hit calm as soon as you get out of Midgar, and, like, the story just slows down significantly at that point, so... I don't know. We'll find out in 2 months.
Yeah.
What
on the Final Fantasy VI front, by the way, like... again, back to 15, like, when you get to kind of the world of ruin, basically, at 15, I'm like, holy crap, they're aping 6.
Right.
And that part was literally 20 minutes long, so that was disappointing.
Well, if you look at 15 basically tries to ape a little bit from a lot of them, tries to introduce a lot of different things from the previous ones anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, are you guys ready to start the show?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get started here in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
And Mina.
Hi.
So we're back here from the holidays, so let's just dive right into it. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
Well, to start it off, I beat The Witcher, the first Witcher game.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I didn't look up when I started this game to see, like, when I first started on the podcast, but this has to be 4+ years coming.
It's been a while. New Year, New Witcher.
It's been a very long time.
Yeah. So I loaded it up. It turned out I wasn't in Act 5. So the game, I guess, is structured prologue, 5 acts, and then an epilogue. I don't know why they call it an epilogue, because you're just fighting the entire time against bosses in there, and it's not easy.
Oh, jeez.
But basically, like, I loaded my game, like, with the Witcher TV show going on. I'm like, man, I really want to beat this game and get on to 2. And I can't remember what part it was at, but basically I was dying a bunch, and I'm like, I wonder if they made a mod that I can just give my guy infinite health or something. And, you know, they did.
Hey.
It basically turned his health to 10,000 and made me regenerate like 1,000 health a second or something ridiculous. So then I just kind of walked through the game. In like Act 5 in that game is you're basically teleported to this random like fishing village, and none of the main plot line is around. And I have like 5 or 6 quests with stars by them, which I believe is to communicate to me that this is the main story quest. And none of them are helpful in the journal and progressing these things. So I just start doing quests until something happens, basically. But I beat the game, and the ending to that game is a non-ending. Like, it literally is just, oh, hey, there's another bad guy. There's another bad guy.
Sequel hook?
Oh, this is the real villain. And then you get to, like, the cutscene for the end, and it's like, Witcher's getting an award from the king or whatever, and another bad guy shows up, and it ends on them getting in a fight. And it's like, okay.
All right, then.
Yeah. So, after I beat that, which I don't recommend that game, and I should have taken everyone's advice and just not played it.
Yeah.
I installed and started playing The Witcher 2. Which there could not be a more night and day difference between these games. Like, it's like 10 years of technology happened between the two or something. Like, it is 1,000 times better looking. Like, it feels very immersive.
So would you say, like, read the wiki for Witcher 1 and then play Witcher 2?
Yeah. And, like, there's some stuff that I guess that transfers over. Like, some of my equipment came over.
Oh, cool.
But from what I've read online is it gets, what am I trying to say? It is kind of made invalid pretty quickly, like, in terms of, like, the ancient Witcher armor set that you had the dwarf make, it turns out it's not all that good, and you're going to quickly find better.
The dwarf lied to you, so here's a better one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but my only complaint about the second game so far is I think 75 to 90% of the cast of the game are bald white men, and this isn't meant as it should be more diverse or something like that. It's literally look for it. Everyone in this game is bald except for Geralt.
Like, they don't even have hair, and it's just like there's no difference.
Yes, it's like, why? okay, that guy's musclier, so that's how I'll tell him apart from the other bald white dudes.
Right.
This is just like Gears rejects in this cast, man. What's going on here? But like the game, it's neat. It starts out a ways after the first game. You're in kind of an army camp, and everything seems alive and bustling. Like there are all these soldiers like prepping war things. You guys are kind of in the middle of a war, so you're getting bombed at the time. The combat isn't the stupid click, wait for the icon to make the special symbol, and then click again of which you're one. It is, you press this button to swing your sword, you press this button to swing your sword harder.
Right.
You aren't doing potions on the fly. You have to meditate to do potions.
Right.
I did put this game on its easiest setting, which has been helpful, but I wish it would let me ignore the potion stuff altogether, but so far it's been fairly unintrusive.
Yeah.
Geralt still doesn't have his memory. I guess Yennefer is allegedly dead at this point, which I have no idea.
Maybe that's the plot of 2, where it's like, let's find Yennefer.
Honestly, it's like after playing the first game on and off for so long, I just kind of thought Yennefer was Triss in the first game, and I was wrong. Yennefer's just not in the first game, I don't think. That may be wrong. That's probably wrong. But Triss is the main mage you deal with in the first game. But anyway, like it feels like a really cool world. I do wish the quests were a little bit more. Like I wish there was a stupid line for me to follow on the quest stuff.
Right.
But it's still cool. Like I was in a village and guys like, we found this F. We think she's part of the, what are they called? The Scotilla? Is that what they're called?
Something like that.
It's a weird word. Anyway, we think she's part of this. She gave us these tips, and these people died. And you're like, well, why don't we just go to this cave and find out? And you go to the cave, and it's kind of filled with monsters, and you find the corpse, and it's filled with arrows. And I basically go back and I'm like, yeah, no, there's Scoia'tael, that's what they're called.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely killed these people. And they're like, she's like, wait, no, please, here, let me just show you a thing, and we'll be good. And I'm like, no, I'm good. You've lied that one time. That's all I needed. And they took her away. And then I thought, I wonder if that, like, what would have happened if I followed her? So I look up the quest thing, and like initiating the quest, what the wiki listed was completely different than what happened to me.
Oh,
it didn't even list like I just stumbled into it. I didn't do any of these steps beforehand. I didn't run into any of the Scoia'tael to do this. I just found a bunch of guards like disparaging this woman. But it was it would have been an ambush, by the way, if I had followed her advice. So I feel justified.
That makes sense for that series.
But no, it's a really cool game. And looking at my friend's playtime, I'm guessing it's going to take me 40-ish hours to get through it.
That's not bad.
So I basically played 2 or 3 hours into it, and now I realized I had some other games I really should probably finish. Yeah, I think that's about all I have to say on The Witcher 2. I also briefly played, like for an evening, I remembered that I owned the Bard's Tale Trilogy remake. And I thought, well, let's check in there and see if they ever added 2 and 3. And they did add 2 and 3.
Nice.
So I loaded up 2. And it wasn't my party, and they weren't accessible. I'm like, well, what the heck's going on? So then I had to basically Google online to try and figure it out. And what you have to do to transfer your characters from 1 to 2 is you have to load up 1, and then you have to go into the settings of 1 and say transfer or start a new game on Bard's Tale 2, and then it'll move your characters.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And even when it does that, it flashes this warning. It's like, are you sure you want to transfer them at full level? Because it's going to be really easy if you do. But I'm like, well, that's what I want.
Right, it's like, hell yeah, I want to do that.
These games are challenging enough to navigate.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got into 2 and played that for a bit and wasn't quite ready to commit to figuring everything out. I basically, 2 introduces a new mage class for your... maybe I should run a bit. So the Bard's Tale game, for the most part, in the first game, you pick your class and that's it, except for your mages, who, once they reach spell knowledge level 6 or whatever for like conjurer or magician or whatever you classed them as, they can move to another. And there's like 4 classes of mage, I think, in the first one, and then they add a 5th in the second one. So it's just me transferring those guys over, wandering around the city for a bit, killing some stuff,
getting your feet under you.
Yeah, basically. I still wish I could do some of the grinding that I used to do in the first game, but they just have not enabled me to repeat certain encounters to do that.
Right.
And then last but not least, played more Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Yay!
You say that now. I'm.
Oh no!
I've been like I don't hate this game, but I find it a little boring. Part of it's like a lot of the characters aren't like, I don't dislike them. I kind of like most of the characters, and I've gotten to the point where I've started to recruit finally other characters from other classes.
Okay.
And I really like I like the whole instructing loop. I like the whole figuring out, okay, what do they need to unlock these classes? I'm going to go instruct them. I really dislike walking around the monastery. I think the monastery is a very boring environment.
Do you use like the fast travel?
Sometimes. I'm still getting used to, because I'll fast travel, and just like maybe the last play session or two, I realized, I can click X on the map and then figure out where a character is in that specific location.
Yeah. Once you do that, you'll learn to zip around.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like Persona 5 when I didn't realize you could find on the map where people were. And I was like, as soon as I found that out, I was like, I've been playing this game wrong.
Well,
I'll have to waste my time seeing if someone's actually there.
Yeah, I'm like going to every place and being like, is Yosuke here? Nope. All right, let's move to the next place.
Well, and like when you see the map in 3 Houses, like it shows you all the characters in it. You just you'll travel there, and it's more than one room. So it's a matter of
I see.
figuring out where they are.
Basically saying roughly where they are, because the characters don't. No, some of them do, but most of them have like they move like around that area, and they don't usually stick to one spot. There's a couple characters who have like a spot they really like.
Their favorite
and they
chair.
won't move from there.
Yeah, well, and like you generally want to talk to most of the characters because you have the potential to build up their motivation or your support level or whatever, which I generally try to do. I try to recruit everyone that I haven't recruited in every session, but at the same time, it's also building things up. And then there's this weird tea time mini game you can do on their birthdays, which it's like you think you're going to get a conversation, but it's let's pretend we're having a conversation with the game, because you pick a tea and there'll be like some mood thing that affects them on. Like they all have favorite teas, which I never look up because the whole interaction is timed. And then you can strike up conversation and it'll give you 3 topics. And I have a very low percentage success rate on this. Like the characters that are in my house, like I've kind of learned some of their personalities to an extent, so I can usually guess the right answers. Everyone else, it's like I have no idea. You look just like Ferdinand. I know you're into girls, and that's about it. Like, tell me something about yourself, Sylvan.
Sylvan's the one who will automatically join your house if you're female.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
There you go.
I found that out day one because he immediately joined my house. I was like, he's so easy to recruit. I'm like, I must have great stats. And like my other friend who was playing was like, no, he has some ridiculous stats he wants you to meet. And I was like, what? No, he recruited day one. And they're like, no, you're lying. I took a screenshot. I was like literally day one, I recruited him.
Dude just walked in my front door.
We deep dived in and we were like, oh, it's because you're a female. Oh, that makes sense.
That's so good.
Man. Yeah, I don't even remember what stats he needed. I just remember he's one of the T people I did. And the other thing about the T thing is when you strike up conversation, it doesn't actually give you a conversation. It just says whether you're successful in conversing with or not.
the tea time minigame reminds me of a couple other minigames that I've seen in like other JRPGs that are very. It's so ambiguous. They'll make a statement, like they'll say something like, so and so was sneaking around the monastery or something, and it'll give you 3 options. Like you can approve, disapproving look, or laugh, or something like that. And those are your 3 options to pick in response to whatever they just said. And one of those options is the one that they want you to pick. And if you pick that right option, it moves you into another dialogue thing. And if you get that right, then it moves you to another dialogue thing. And if you get that right, then they're overjoyed with you. You get bonus points to their friendship thing. But you have to basically guess what response they want you to pick. But it's not like a full conversation. It's like, try to figure out which of these 3 options is the one they want you to react with.
Right.
Yeah. I have recruited most of the teachers at this point. I say most of them. I recruited like 4 of them or something like that. Like I think I have the blonde knight lady who doesn't like me left.
Is it Catherine or what is it?
Yeah, Catherine.
Okay.
That's it. And I suspect there may be a story reason that she won't join me eventually, but I did get the one drunk teacher lady, and I got the crest guy. I'm bad with names, folks.
No, I know that it's a JRPG because there's a drunk teacher.
Yeah.
Blanking on her name. I believe it begins with an M. Manzel.
Mad Dog 2020.
Oh man, I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue now.
She's a hot mess, a hot drunk mess.
Yeah, I got Shamir, I think is her name. Purple lady, probably a thief or bow. I don't know. I haven't used any of them yet.
The assassin like lady.
Yeah.
No nonsense.
I don't know. Like I guess. Gosh, I don't want to compare it to Persona, but I'm going to. Like, what entertains me about like moving around the Persona world is I feel like I'm going to different places and seeing different sights and different color palettes and this and that. And the monastery is 90% this tan brick, and
right.
It's a fairly boring environment. Like I wish there was a village that you could also go to or something like that, or like I don't know how you do that in like a medieval type setting. And that may just be me, because like I am for the most part more of a modern day to sci-fi guy in terms of the fantasy I like. Like I still like old school fantasy stuff, but I guess in terms of foods I would not eat it as much as I would sci-fi. But I don't know. And I guess the other part too is that you don't battle a whole lot, and I regret putting the game on casual because the battles, like I could just sleep through. Like if I lose a character, it's because, oh wait, I got too cocky and let 5 people attack my character this round.
You can adjust the difficulty
mid-game?
Yeah. You can actually raise it, but I don't think, like, you can't raise it to the very hardest setting, I think. Like, it's got a hard lock that, like, nope, you've lowered it below the whatever the super hard setting.
Right.
Gotcha. I may look into that.
But I think, yeah, you should. I'm pretty sure you can raise it up to, like, there's whatever the easiest setting is, and casual, and then maybe like normal, hard, and then whatever the ridiculous setting is. I think. I know you could switch between them.
Gotcha. Well, maybe I just need to do that then, because combat is super, like, when I got to the battle with the first Death Knight, and I'm like, I bet I could take this guy. And
I could do
it
this.
just wouldn't let me hit him, honestly, was the thing. Yeah. Like, I was actually, I can't remember what level he was in that first fight, but my guys were like 19 or 20 at that point. Because I had, like, chosen battle for one of them and just did a bunch of random battles and needed the money, and like keep running out of money in this game a lot. So anytime I go to a monthly battle, I try to do a couple freebies before I do whatever the main ones that use up my energy points are. But I don't know. Like, again, it's not a bad game. It's just a game I'm having trouble like really desiring to play or really getting into the story.
It's
so
not really clicking with you right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
There's a moment where the game goes into like you're in Act 1 of the story. Act 2 is where things start moving along, especially for you.
Yeah, well, and I've listened up to like Giant Bomb Day 4, and so I had part of it spoiled for me, which is upsetting because
I'm sorry, that sucks.
Well, I'm less upset that it's going to happen and more upset that character is my best leveled student.
Ah.
Right.
And like I keep leveling that character anyway, and I'm like, is this am I making things harder for me in the future?
Why am I
maybe
doing this?
Maybe they'll make a reasonable case and I'll want to be the bad guy with them. I don't know.
Right.
Like if that's an option.
I don't think that affects anything.
Okay.
At least I don't think so. I'll be honest. So when I picked my side because I picked the Golden Deer, and my husband picked the Black Eagles, like you, and we get to that point in the game, and so what's kind of interesting is when you replay the game, you'll see like a different aspect. Whereas like if you were to play the blue lion or whatever they are, I don't remember. They drop mega heavy hints at huge story things. Like they start like force feeding it down your throat. Whereas the path you're on, it's supposed to be way more like smoke and mirrors. You're supposed to actually genuinely be surprised on a lot of points. Not too surprised, but like this point of like, whoa, we went there, we did this, we are literally starting all of this. That should be more of a surprise. Whereas like the Blue Lions are just being like smack, smack, smack. Are you aware this is going down?
Right.
And like the thing is from the Golden Deer point of view, we're not being force fed, but if you pay attention to a lot of the students, one of my students is really keen on somebody on something going on, and she'll just tell you, she's like, I don't like this person, I don't trust this person, and I've been following them around and like just telling you these kinds of things, and you're just kind of like, what? That person seems fine. What are you talking about? But that's the reason that person will refuse to join your house. If you try to recruit this person, she won't say that she won't join you, but she's an impossible will not join. She's like straight up, she'll just be like, I will not join your side.
Interesting.
She'll never say it though. But what's interesting is much later on in the game, she'll tell you her feelings on all three houses, where she'll be like, I think of Claude as like this, he's a dumb leader, not that great, but she's like, but let me tell you about them other two. Holy smokes. No, I'm not down for either of those things. Like, no, but triple no on that one. Like, no, but triple no. And then she'll be like, so, I kind of like Claude. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do too. But it's more interesting to, like, once you've played through the game, going back and seeing, because they really do try to make you see like multiple sides of the story. And I'm really down for the way Claude sees the world. He has a very, I guess you could say like a romantic sort of like idealistic sort of approach towards everything. Whereas like it's almost unattainable what he wants, like, because he wants this world that's just, I'll go ahead and spoil a little bit because I don't know fully all of it, but he just believes that there's a way to make everyone get along Like basically, let's try to make everyone get along the best we can. You know, let's end racism. Let's end like these things. Let's try and help like the poorer people. Let's not like feed all like the rich don't need to keep getting like fatter and happier. Stop this whole religion fighting nonsense. So he has like these sort of like sounds really great on paper. How are you going to make it happen though? Because like nobody's going to be down for this. Whereas the other sides have their other views on that. But Claude's more of like, let's try and find the way that hurts the least amount of people that's going to make this happen. Maybe it won't happen today. Maybe it won't happen tomorrow. But let's work towards this idealized goal. And that's Claude. And I'm down for that sort of like opinion.
Right.
Like I'm like, if you know, I understand it's unattainable, but he's like, we're gonna make it happen anyways. And the other two have different opinions on, you know, their you know, opinions. So just infer what you want about the other two houses, but they don't, the three of them do not agree on the approach.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see where it goes. Like I've gotten Edelgard's support up to where she told me something pretty messed up that I won't repeat on here, but I suspect it's going to play into everything having to do with crests, that is, and how she got hers in particular. But it's it's a game I'm going to keep on going with, but it's also a game that like, I don't know. Hopefully, once I hit the time skip or jump or schism or whatever the heck happens that everyone, Act 2 that everyone alludes to. Hopefully, I will have recruited everyone I want to recruit, which is everyone, and B, it will take off in such a way that I really want to play and finish it.
Right.
Because I bought too many games on the Christmas sale with Christmas money.
Yeah, me too.
And there's a couple in my back like that I own now that I'm like, man, I could just start playing that because that game seemed crazy.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't hate it. I'm just middle of the road right now. Hopefully my opinion changes as we go. But I believe that is all I've been playing.
All right, Mina, how about you?
So I mostly played Another Eden, which it's that mobile game that's really just an RPG that's like inserted a mobile game into it.
And it's
I don't
also
know how
just
to
Chrono Trigger too. I finally got it downloaded on my phone, and I finally got it to patch. I had nothing but problems getting it to patch, but I finally have it now.
So
it was the initial, because I'm used to games downloading where it's like, this game is 200 megs, and then you fire it up the first time, it's like, we need a 15 gigabyte download. It's like, okay. This game was just like, it is 4.2 gigs. That's the download. Go nuts. It's like, okay, cool.
Right. So this game, so like I hit Act 2. So if I were to like try to describe somebody this game and really sell them on it, it feels like the creator was like, I need to fast forward feed you the story of Chrono Trigger. Like I need to like fast feed you into this.
It's your required reading.
Right. So like rather than just expecting the people who like Chrono Trigger to pick up this mobile game that I was not advertised that this was a Chrono game, right? So rather than do that, the creator has carefully, like it was almost like he wrote out the script, the major points of Chrono Trigger, and was like, these are the major points. Let me just tweak it, you know, like that school sort of like change it just a little bit, you know, so that way the teacher doesn't know you copied me, sort of thing. And he's just like, I'm just going to change this. I'm going to change some names around, you know, tweak this little here, tweak this little there. And that's Act 1 of the game. Where it's not like, oh, this is a 1-to-1, like, you know, Chrono Trigger game, but it's kind of like you'll feel it the whole way you're going through Act 1.
Right.
There's definitely a different story arc that kind of carries on through it, makes it its own thing. But you hit Act 2, and it's like Act 2 is not Chrono Trigger anymore. Act 2 has taken what has happened of Act 1 and has moved on to its own story.
Oh, cool.
So I would say like that's probably where Chrono Trigger 3 starts, or Chrono 2, right. Whatever you want to think of it as. Like, this is probably where I would say, okay, it's on its own now. Right. I really like the story, and I don't go into mobile games expecting to get a good story. I kind of expect way less. I went into this thinking it's a gacha game that has Persona, like, a Persona collab, and that's what drew me in. Persona collab, I'm in. Like, that's what I went in for. And then like I got out this sort of, this is a really competent story that could have been made into an actual game, and it wasn't. Man, I really don't want to spoil anything about it. I will say that like there was a couple of moments that I just had to stop and laugh at some of the like the obvious Chrono Trigger like sort of illusions. Mm-hmm. You get to this one part of the game, and it's literally got the clock dial like swinging back and forth in the foreground and background of the area you're running through.
Right, it's sort of like
hogs. I'm like I feel like I'm walking through the title screen of Chrono Trigger right now. There are some bosses that feels very like Chrono Triggery. I don't want to spoil which ones, but it's kind of like I'm feeling that. That's very
like if you squint your eyes, it's sort of like, yeah, that's that boss from Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, that's that boss. Yeah. Right. I don't know. It's creative, and I
gotta start this soon, and because as much as you've been enjoying it, I think I'm gonna really enjoy it too.
It's nice. I wouldn't like the like I said, the gacha is definitely it's kind of like, I don't know, like if you really want to think about it, like imagine if like you were playing Chrono Cross, and do you really need all the characters you can recruit?
Do you need all 58 characters?
Did you need them all?
Right.
No.
I needed the guy that's just made out of straw.
But it's kind of like, so when you do get the currency to pull on the gacha, it's kind of nice, where it's like, oh, I've got like these cool new units, but were they truly necessary for you to enjoy the story and beat the game? Probably not. I've seen people beat some really hard bosses, like just sticking to the characters that you have, like that are free, combined with the Persona 2 Persona 5 characters, the two of them that you get, Joker and Morgana. I've seen people beat like content with just the Persona 5 characters, just the two of them. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, no, you don't need it. It's definitely one of those, it's nice to have. There's nothing that makes it so that way like you're comparing yourself against somebody else, which is kind of like also sort of a thing that happens in gacha games, where there's this sense of like showing off what you have. There's no online leaderboard or anything like that. This is like basically the most offline gacha. You can't see what anybody else is doing. You don't have a friends list. There's nothing shared. It's like you are actually by yourself. So the other aspect, and this is kind of where I also get into this whole sort of like, it definitely doesn't feel like the way a real gacha would try and kind of monetize people, is that the paid currency you can buy, like you can buy paid currency, and if you buy paid currency, there are banners that come around where you can actually like, you get like your 10 pull, but you also get to pick a unit on the banner that you like, just give me that unit. So if you're just like absolutely like, I need that unit, There's probably a paid banner that comes around every now and then that you can just say, absolutely, just give me that unit, and
that's nice.
I can move on with my life.
Right.
So, I like that. That's kind of the thing, is where it doesn't feel like a lot of gachas would not do that. They just be like, no, just keep sinking your money into that. Like,
right. Just keep rolling the dice.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how often those come around. Seems like there's always a 5-star guaranteed paid banner that comes around. Seems like every now and then they give you that pick my unit sort of banner comes around, but none of it's necessary. And I've gotten plenty of nice stuff without it. So
nice.
I mean, there's that. The other thing is like, let's say you did recruit like a unit that could become a 5-star, but you didn't recruit it at its maximum level. There's ways to grind and get them their 5-star maxed out stuff. So while it's tedious to grind all of that out, and it's much better to just plain old get it, it's available if you're that hung up and desperate on it. So other than that, yeah, it's really nice. I would say go into it and try to enjoy it as an RPG, and just kind of like, pull on the banners when you get the currency, have like, just play it as normal. Do not try and spend money on this game. Just have fun with what it is.
Right.
And man, the thing is like constantly while I was going through the game, more stuff would unlock my like. Once I beat Act 1, it opened up, like, it's almost like Act 2 introduced, how do I describe it in terms of, like, another game? Like when you've beaten, like, Ni no Kuni, like, when you beat Ni no Kuni the first time, like, you played through all the story, but once you beat Ni no Kuni, the world, like, it's like, boom, here's more content.
Right,
way
it
more
all the way
content.
opens up.
Like, it really opens up. So that's what happened at the end of Act 1. So once it did that, like, even more stuff opened. They had, like, basically now all these hard mode dungeons have opened and things like that. I still need to go through and beat, like, Act 2. I'm working my way through it, but it's, like, it's a lot of story. I have to sit down and enjoy this.
Right.
But then, like, there's all sorts of, like, weapons that you can get and upgrade and, like, make the weapons stronger and, like, enhance the super weapons. So it's a lot of stuff. And, I mean, it's nice. I like it. It's definitely, like, kind of, at your own pace sort of thing. There's no need to rush because none of the content is, like, it's not like when you're playing a normal gacha game where it's like, oh, we have an event and it's going to end in 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, that's not happening. They add these events permanently. Like, when they add an event, it's a permanent addition to the game.
That's nice.
Stays forever. So, like, the Persona 5 collab is forever.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. So that's exciting. And they've kind of left the door open in a sense that, maybe they might add more Persona 5 characters. They kind of left the door open. So, like, there's nothing that says, like, this is it.
Right.
But, like, the amount of people who have loved this collab and have, like, basically just, like, heaped praise on both sides for this collab, kind of, it's promising for a future, like, hey, come back and do like another here. That'd be real nice. So they've definitely created like its own little section in the game where it's like, oh, there's this own little section where collabs are going to be. Yeah, the collaboration area. And so they've left that open. It's nice. I like it. So other than that, I played a little bit of Stardew Valley. Because I have not been feeling well. I am getting over a fever or cold that I got from Christmas. And
me too.
Great. So I started playing Stardew Valley, and by started playing, I mean I turned it on and I realized that I hadn't played Stardew Valley in a while, and they had like some sort of like big, huge content update.
It's like that 1.4 patch, I think, like the big new Stardew patch.
But I didn't know about that.
Right.
It broke my mods.
And there's so much.
I was like, oh no! And so like I basically spent like this feels like any time I've ever been like, hey, I feel like playing Skyrim again, and then I open up like your 200 mods are not working, and I'm like,
why?
Do I do this? Do I really want to do this? But I mean, with Stardew Valley, I had basically 24 mods, and I was like, okay, let's sit down and you know figure this out. Let's. So, I did not get very far into Stardew Valley. The mods that I had installed, or whatever, the mods that I had installed, they have taken leaps and bounds to like get better, to the point that I was just like, I'm like, I don't remember the mods being this good.
Right.
Like they've injected new characters into the game somehow.
Oh, wow.
And like they've got their own little stories. Their houses are integrated within like the world of Stardew. Like like they have their own little. There's like a house that has a mansion, and I went to go talk to one of the new one of the new bachelors in the game. I went to go talk to him. He was playing on his on a console or whatever by the TV, and it wouldn't let me talk to him. But it said like. Victor is in the middle of playing Personable 5, and I was like, I like this bachelor already.
Right.
He's got good taste. Like,
let me move in.
So, like, there's they added like this mod had added like 6 or 7 new characters in the town, and it clearly a lot of love is put into both the game itself by the creator, and also a lot of the community has put a lot of love into making these really, really, really outstanding mods.
Yeah.
And just upkeeping it, because clearly they had to update it for the newest version. So these people have been keeping it going for years now. So. That's a lot of fun. I haven't played enough of it to see any of the new changes, but I do know that the 1.4 patch or whatever it was pretty significant. Mm-hmm. So I'll be interested into seeing all the changes there. But other than that, I really have not been playing that much. What about you, Boston?
So my wife and I started Borderlands 3, and I think we only played about an hour. I managed to get this on sale. I bought like the super ultimate deluxe edition, whatever that version is called, because it was on sale on PSN, and we share our libraries. So it was $75 for the game and the season pass, and that means both of us get both things. So $75, that's a pretty good deal. The Borderlands 3 doesn't start the best.
Oh.
She and I have both played the other 3 Borderlands games together. Borderlands 3 starts on Pandora with someone talking in your head and Marcus letting you off a bus to talk to Claptrap. So it's immediately like Borderlands 1 and 2.
I was about to say, that sounds exactly like the other Borderlands.
Yeah, and like I get what they're trying to go for, but in a game that is so much about, hey, explore a bunch of these different planets, starting on Pandora with Claptrap and fighting a bunch of bandits, that's not pulling me in. Like the pre-sequel, jumping around on a moon with lower gravity and popping bandits the air masks off, like that was cool. Like here's something that's pretty different. We've only played about an hour, largely because I'm playing on PS4 Pro. That has been running 4K HDR, 60 frames, runs really great. My wife is playing on a vanilla PS4. That does not run well.
No.
To the point where there's a little bit of delay in like movement and aiming. So that was a really frustrating experience for her, because you expect in a first-person shooter that at least even if it doesn't look the best, or it's 30 frames and it's not, maybe there's some hitching or stuff, that the action of moving and aiming and shooting would feel great, and it really didn't. So we'll probably pick it up again at some point, but I don't want to belabor the Borderlands 3 point too much because it's another Borderlands game. Like, so far there hasn't been enough stuff where it's like, man, let me tell you about the crazy stuff Borderlands 3 does. So far, an hour and it's just kind of more Borderlands. So, for better or for worse. The game I do want to talk about is SaGa Scarlet Grace Ambitions. This game came out last year. So I wanted to go look and see when Final Fantasy Legend came out. This came out on the original Game Boy. That was the original SaGa game, and it got brought over as Final Fantasy Legend here. That came out in 1989. So as of now, I've been a fan of the SaGa series for 30 years, which feels real weird, but that will give you an appreciation of how much I love this series. The series is weird and difficult and offbeat and has largely been good, with some games having come out that were really, really, really terrible. Thankfully, SaGa Scarlet Grace is really great. I didn't realize that this came out on Vita in Japan, and the Ambitions version we got has a bunch of quality of life improvements, a bunch of different voice acting options. It's on PS4, PC, Switch, iOS, and Android. So it's on pretty much everything. As a result of it being on the Vita, it doesn't look great. It very much feels like a Square budget title where it's like, here's $1 million or $2 million, here's the Unity engine, sort of make it work. I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think in the battles the game doesn't look that great, but I think in the world map where you're playing 99% of this game, it looks really great. It has this cool sort of hand-drawn pop-up book style where as you're walking by like a town or a dungeon, it sort of folds up like off the page and pops up, and when you wander off, it sort of flips back onto the page. This game is really weird. So I didn't expect liking the thing that I don't like in a lot of JRPGs. So this game does not have explorable towns or dungeons. So when you go to a town, you pick the town, there's a couple of different options on the menu. You pick one and you talk to someone, or you pick one and you have the like the blacksmith improve your gear. There are no gear drops. No gear drops, no money drops, no stuff like that. You're getting all these materials from fighting enemies. Use those to improve your gear. So you're not beating a boss, getting a sword, and equipping the sword. Nothing like that. And how you deal with dungeons is you go to a dungeon and it'll show you how many battles there are in a row with their difficulty. And then once that first battle is done, you can switch out your party or whatever, but you're going to kind of do all those battles back to back to back. When you're done with them, you get put back on the world map. Where Scarlet Grace Ambitions has been pulling me so much is the battle system itself, and a large part of that is this thing they call united attacks. So on a base level, it's the same thing that SaGa games normally do, which is use a bunch of skills, you'll get inspired, and you'll learn another skill. And use that skill, and it'll get better and stronger. You have these stars on the bottom of the battlefield, basically, that say, like, if you have 4 stars, that's how many moves you can do. Some attacks will take 2 stars, some will take 1 star, some will take 4, and every turn you get another star. So it's really kind of balancing how much of that stuff you want to use versus if you use 2 or 3 big attacks, that means maybe 2 people out of your party are going to move, but the other 3 aren't going to. And the more you use those abilities, the stronger they get and the less they cost. So something that costs 2 stars at its 0 rank, you used a whole bunch, you got to rank 1 or 2, is going to do increased damage, and now it only takes 1 star. So that stuff is all kind of standard SaGa stuff. The stuff that's really interesting to me is this thing called United Attacks, and it's, you have your layout at the bottom of the screen of the order of your units and the enemies, like a lot of RPGs nowadays, where it's like, oh, here's 2 of my... the best example I can give is, here's 2 of my party members, here's an enemy in the 3rd slot, and then there's 2 other party members in sort of slot 4 and 5. What you want to do is you want to take out that enemy that's between your 4 party members. Because what happens is if you take out that enemy and the 4 party members smack together on the turn order list, all 4 of them attack at once. So you're trying to manipulate the order list so that when you take out an enemy, the most number of your units can smack together to try and do a whole bunch of damage to another enemy. And you can actually chain that stuff. But how it turns is, usually in these games, you're trying to like push your enemies further back in the turn order so you can attack before they do, or defend, or whatever. But this is really interesting because you're trying to keep them in the mix so that you can get a united attack and then do a bunch of damage. And when you do a united attack, all the party members that were a part of that attack get their star cost, their BP cost, the cost to cast a spell or an attack or something, significantly decreased. Like to the point where if something costs 5 or 6 stars to do, it's going to cost 1. So for that next turn, you can go crazy on the enemies for virtually no currency, and then kind of try to make more united attacks happen. And it turns, you know, a lot of JRPGs, and I know all of us have played some where it's just like, here's another battle, I'm just going to hit X on attack and just hope for the best and just try and get through this. But for me, Scarlet Grace has really been me looking forward to the next battle, because there's so much going on and there's so much movement happening. Also, enemies can do united attacks too. So if they knock out one of your party members and you haven't defended them properly, next thing you know, 4 or 5 enemies are attacking your party all at once. So I really, really like the battle system. And then on top of that, the world map, each area has a bunch of points of interest on it. One of the earlier areas, there's a forest that you have to clean out, and it mentions that there's a bunch of bees in there. So you clear out the forest, and next thing you know, bees are flying over to this other forest. You go clear that, and then by doing all this stuff, you unlock an entirely different area with a boss that gets you a new party member once you beat that boss. So there's all these cool little things you're doing on the world map that are affecting the area and sort of affecting your storyline too. I have put a significant amount of time in this ever since I bought it on a Christmas sale, and it's one of the best RPGs I've played in a really long time. And I know I'm not selling it super well, mostly because it's such a mechanics heavy game. But it's one of those games where I really want to keep playing it, and I really want to keep finding out where it's going. The storyline is fine, and everything is going pretty well, but I think, unlike a lot of other games, I'm in it for the battle system, and the battle system has been really great so far. So SaGa Scarlet Grace Ambitions has been really great, and I'm hoping to play a lot more. There's 4 storylines, and I'm only on the first one. It does like the ogre battle thing at the beginning, where it asks you a bunch of like belief questions, where it's like, you run into a beggar on the side of the road. Do you give him half of your food and water, or do you stab him in the back? You know, that sort of thing. And you answer all those questions, and it recommends your beginning party for you, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Hoping to talk about it a lot more as we go, but so far so good. All right, let's wrap this up real quick with releases and news stories, since we don't really have a ton of those going on. RPG releases for January 2020. Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore comes out on the Switch on the 17th. I went to go pre-order this the other day, and it said I already did that in September. So I have this coming, and I am excited to try to get into it for real this time.
I really like this game a whole lot. Like, it's not... I think before we started going live, we were talking a lot about like what were actually good stories in video games, or mainly what weren't.
Right.
Like, the overall story for this game is forgettable. Like, it doesn't matter. What matters is you're playing basically a group of Persona users who have an interest in becoming pop stars.
Right.
Which is incredibly entertaining in itself. Yeah. And the battlefields are all performances.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a fun, dumb, lighthearted game that I'm excited to play again.
Yeah. I could get into a fun, lighthearted game right now. That sounds good. Let's move on to news stories. I sort of forgot there was a Mother 4 fan game. A whole bunch of people came together and said, like, look, we're going to make Mother 4. No one seems super interested in it, so we're just going to do it. It was quiet for a pretty significant amount of time, even though it was looking pretty promising early on. It has just shown up again and said, hey, for obvious reasons, we're not called Mother 4 anymore. We're now called Oddity. And this game looks really good.
So I have been following this game for forever. Since
it's been in development for a long time.
Announced. I had ultimately just said, like, rather than continuously like hovering over this game, I was just like, I'm gonna let it go. But it went through multiple hands. Mm-hmm. And I know there was like shuffling and disagreements that happened along the way, but I still desperately want to see this game because it's a true passion project. They don't no money,
right?
No money at all, because that was one of the reasons why they thought they could get away with the whole Mother 4 thing, was just as long as like no money passes through anybody's hands here, like what are they gonna do? But like they haven't taken any like they didn't steal any sort of thing from previous games. It was just called Mother 4. No assets, nothing. Like everything was made by hand. So I'm super excited to hear that they are still under like doing this project, because from what I saw like probably a year ago, it looked really good, and it felt very much like this is where the Mother series would have gone.
I think that's the thing that surprised me the most about the trailer, is like you hear something like a Mother 4 fan game, and watching the trailer sort of like, oh yeah, you guys, it's 100% like if Mother was set in the 70s, this would be exactly what it would be. So good on them. I hope it comes out. Still no release date or anything. I think they were just putting out a trailer to say, we're working on it. We've made some significant progress. Here's how it looks. Please be excited. So, Awesome Games Done Quick 2020 is starting this weekend. I always forget this starts really early in the year. But if you've never watched it, this is the speedrunning. This is the sort of one of 2 large Games Done Quick speedrunning events they do. The other one happens in the middle of the summer. bunch of RPGs focused this year. Destiny 2's Last Wish raid, they're going to try and beat that in 28 minutes, which should be a really good watch. That is, watching speedruns of that raid is really good. Someone is going to play all of the Fallout games back to back, from 1 to 4. That should, the estimate is 3 hours for all of them. So
that seems right. That seems right. I've seen them. Like, some of them you'll be pretty impressed with.
Yeah, like 15 minutes for Fallout 1. Here we go. Like those ones sound really good. The Outer Worlds, the one that just came out, I'm excited to see
23 minutes or something.
Yeah, 23 minutes super dumb playthroughs. The key to there is be real dumb, and you can go through that game real fast. I'm very excited to see those. And a 9-hour PlayStation 2 Final Fantasy VIII run. I think if people haven't watched multiple hour speed runs of stuff like Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy V or stuff like that, 9 hours sounds really long and it sounds really boring, but the number of really cool and interesting stuff that can be done during a JRPG speedrun is really great. And if you don't want to watch it live, they put all that stuff on YouTube, so you can watch it in chunks at some point. But Final Fantasy VIII seems like a game that could be a really cool speedrun. And I'm excited to see why they're running on a PS2 as opposed to the remaster or the PC version of the PS1. And I'm sure there's some cool bugs and exploits there.
I'd love to see what sort of changes, because I've been following the whole speedrunning community for years, like when it was just like at someone's house on a couch and they were receiving, like, maybe they made like a couple thousand from their, like, the whole thing. I'm like, the whole thing, they only made like a couple thousand for the charity.
Yeah.
And I remember watching their old Final Fantasy VIII speedrun and the tactics that they used, because I remember thinking to myself, like, I wonder how they do that. Like, how would you, like, go fast in that particular game?
Like a 50-hour RPG.
Right. How do you even cut down time? And, like, what was the strategy? And I'll tell you something. Number one, be really good at card games.
Right.
Like, that's number one. Like, you have
manipulate the card game world.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like, number two was just careful, like, learning of what abilities to learn from the summons. And, like, obviously you don't go for everything, but I seem to remember, like, there were certain, like, just doing certain things or walking certain ways on the map, walking around in, like, in a certain movement on the screen to dodge like the spots where you'd get, like, a guaranteed, encounter.
It's crazy stuff.
Especially because in Final Fantasy VIII, leveling hurts you. So the game almost, like, if you know how to break it, it technically does encourage you to speedrun it.
That's
and
true.
not mess around. Grinding is like once you hit, like, a certain level, like, you actually have increased the amount of HP and the abilities that the bosses know. And,
it makes it significantly harder.
Yeah. So if you want to make that game harder, grind more.
Right. And last but not least, the final news story here, a cautionary tale. We're not going to talk spoilers here. So the unannounced Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, that's the first part. There will be a demo and has been unannounced. That has leaked. And as part of the demo, if you start digging into the game's files, you find a significant amount of content from the full game. So this is a cautionary tale for if you're concerned about, I'll call them Final Fantasy VII spoilers, but it's really what's being changed from the base Final Fantasy VII game into the remake, because I've looked into it a little bit there, and there are some changes. If you're concerned about that stuff, beware that stuff is out there now. Like, set up your Twitter filters and start muting some hashtags and words and stuff like that. That stuff is out there, and we're not going to talk about any of that because I don't want to spoil that for anybody. But especially we're only like 2 months away, which is insane. But yes, be warned. And apparently there's a Final Fantasy VII Remake demo coming out at some point. I don't know when, but people already have it. So
that's
who knows
the
how
part
this
that's
happens.
wild to me. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, the unannounced demo has leaked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The internet. All right, that's all of our news stories, and that's our episode for this month. You can visit us at pickingpixels.com. Everywhere to find and follow us at the right-hand side of the page. Musum, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find the Nexus for all my audio endeavors at jbaudio.net, and I'm on Twitter as John Musum.
And you have a brand new album out of all your podcast themes, including this show's theme. So go pick that up. It is good, very good, and very reasonably priced.
Thank you, and thank you for remembering, because I already forgot that I should probably plug it.
That's all right. Mina, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitch or on YouTube at Mina K.O. Rocket in Boston.
E1M1.com is the place for all my shows. Patreon.com/E1M1, the ones are numbers, for all the early access and behind-the-scenes stuff for all the shows. It's only $5 a month for the recommended tier, so hop in on there and get yourself now hundreds of hours of audio. It is pretty crazy. And I think that's it. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And our adventure continues next month.
Bye.
There's a dog in the background. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live. We'll see you next month. Bye.